With the unbelievable play in the NBA this past week, I wanted to go back and take a look at 10 of the best individual performances in NBA history. In this video, I'm going to be covering the 10 best individual games as well as 3 honorable mentions that I'd like to discuss. How's everybody doing? My name is Gray Hoops, and I hope you enjoy this video. Now, before we start the honorable mentions, I want to explain what metric we're going to be using to determine who actually had the best game. We're going to be using a metric called Game Score, a player evaluation metric created by John Hollinger. You might be familiar with it. It's considered to be a simpler and linear version of PER that doesn't account for the pace of game, so only the box score stats and the weight of which they matter determined by John. A game score of 10 is considered to be average, while a score of 40 is considered outstanding. Now that we have that out of the way, let's get to the 3 honorable mentions. Now, these 3 honorable mentions were all 8th, 9th, and 10th place going into this season, but just got pushed out within the last 30 days due to the insane play that's been going on this month. We're going to go through these players fast and dive deeper into the top 10. First up is LeBron James. On November 3rd, 2017, in a 130-122 win over the Wizards, LeBron James dropped 57 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks, good enough for a 53.2 game score. Next up in the honorable mentions is Kyrie Irving. Last season, March 15th, 2022, in a win over the Magic, a blowout win, 150-108, Kyrie Irving dropped 60 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block, good enough for a 53.8 game score. And one that just got pushed out this week was Anthony Davis on the Pelicans in 2016. On February 21st, on a win over the Pistons, Anthony Davis dropped 59 points, 20 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 steals, and 1 block, good enough for a 53.9 game score. Now that we have our honorable mentions out of the way, I do want to say that for the next 10 people, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into some of them, more so when we get to the top. So once we get to the top, we're going to be taking a much deeper look about that player and what they ended up doing with the rest of the season and where their team ended up. Starting off in 10th place is Kevin McHale. On March 3rd, 1985, in a 138-129 win over the Pistons, Kevin McHale dropped 56 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks, good enough for a 54.3 game score. McHale ended up shooting 22 for 28 from the field and 12 for 13 at the line. As well as this achievement, his 56 points was also enough to secure the scoring record for the Boston Celtics at the time, stealing it from Larry Bird, who had scored 53 points just 2 years prior. Sadly for Kevin McHale, though, this record would only stand for 9 short days as Larry Bird decided to drop 60 points and take his record back less than 2 weeks later. Going into number 9, just less than 2 months ago on November 13th, 2022, this season, Joel Embiid, in a 105-98 win over the Utah Jazz, dropped 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, and 7 blocks, good enough for a 54.4 game score. Joel Embiid was responsible for over 70% of the points the 76ers scored that night, as well as almost putting up a quadruple double. Going forward, there's only one player classified as a center and power forward, so Joel might have just had the second best game by a center or a power forward since game score has begun. Embiid shot 19 for 28 from the field. He only shot 1 for 5 from 3, but he shot a staggering 20 of 24 from the line. As a team, the 76ers made 40 shots, and Joel was responsible for personally hitting 19 of those. Sadly, this game has been overlooked recently, though, by 2 performances that are going to be coming up later on this list. Next up at number 8 is the only game on this list or the honorable mentions that ended up in a loss for the player. On March 14th, 2017, Devin Booker, in a 130-120 loss to the Celtics, put up 70 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block, good enough for a 54.5 game score. In the midst of a dark season, the Suns team was on a 13-game losing streak, and they were going up against a dominant young Boston Celtics team. As expected, the Celtics dominated the game, and going into the half, only 20-year-old Devin Booker only had 19 points. However, the second half was a completely different story. Booker put up 51 points in the second half, the most since Kobe Bryant in 2006. Finishing with 70 points, Booker surpassed Michael Jordan for the second most points as a guard at the time, and the youngest player to ever put up 60 points or 70 points in an NBA game. This performance, however, was under a lot of controversy as the game was never particularly close, and a lot of the points were from the line in the fourth quarter as Booker shot 24 for 26 at the line. However, no matter what you believe in, putting up 70 points regardless of how it happened to me is still no easy feat, so I'm still going to give Devin Booker his credit where it is due. On April 3rd, 1988, a 26-year-old Michael Jordan would go up against the Bad Boy Pistons in a nationally televised game. Little did everyone know Jordan would be putting up the 7th best game of all time. With 8 seconds left in a tied game, Brad Sellers would deflect the ball into Jordan's hands, who would then get fouled driving to the basket by Bill Laimbeer. He hits both free throws to put the Bulls up 112-110 with 4 seconds left. Isaiah Thomas gets the ball inbounded and would go on to miss the game-tying mid-range shot as Jordan defeats the Pistons, putting up 59 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks, good enough for a 54.7 game score. Jordan shot 21 for 27 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3, and 17 for 19 from the line, good enough for an 83.3% true shooting percentage. Jordan would then go on to win MVP this season, as well as Defensive Player of the Year. Sadly, they weren't able to make it over the hump this year. That was the Pistons in the playoffs, as they lost to them in 5 games in the second round. However, this isn't going to be the only time that Jordan is going to appear on this list. Less than 2 weeks ago, on December 27th, 2022, Luka Doncic would shock the world with a top 5 performance of all time. That was until someone else surpassed him less than a week later and pushed him down to number 6. At number 6, we have Luka Doncic. Against the New York Knicks, down 9 points with 30 seconds to go, all hope seemed lost, and the game seemed over until this happened.
Nothing shocks me about this game.
And that Drew rim, it's still loose. Luka got it back. He did it. An improbable comeback by Dallas to tie it with 1 second left.
The Mavericks would end up defeating the Knicks 126-121 in overtime, with Luka Doncic notching 60 points, 21 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block, good enough for a 56.3 game score. Not only was this only the second ever 60-point triple-double, it was the first and only 60-point, 20 rebound, and 10 assist game in NBA history. Luka Doncic is only 23 years old. Luka did this on 21 for 31 shooting, 2 of 6 from deep, and 16 of 22 from the line. Luka is by far the youngest player on this list, and with well over 10 to 15 years of basketball for Luka to play, it won't surprise me to see him back here on this list. On January 30th, 2018, James Harden did the unthinkable at the time. James Harden was already having an MVP year, and in fact would be crowned MVP just a few months later. Still, no one expected this from him. Coming in at 5th place in a close win, 114-107 over the Magic, James Harden would drop 60 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block on 79% true shooting percentages, good enough for a 56.6 game score, putting up the first ever 60-point triple-double in NBA history. Playing all but 90 seconds of the entire game, James Harden would not only break NBA history, he would also break Calvin Murphy's Houston Rockets scoring record of 57 points. Harden would actually eventually break his 60 points with 61 against the Spurs in 2019. The Beard would end up winning his first and only MVP this year, as the Rockets would end up with a 65-17 record. However, their season would end in heartbreak, 1 game shy of the NBA Finals, as they would lose in a close 7-game series to the eventual champions, the Golden State Warriors. On January 27th, 1990, after hearing that AC Green of the Showtime Lakers would be starting over him in the biggest all-star starting snub of all time, Karl Malone would explode for 61 points, 18 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, 0 blocks. Good enough for a 60.2 game score and an absolute blowout win against the Bucks. The Jazz would defeat the Bucks by 48 points in a 144-96 point nail-biter. Malone would only play 33 minutes in this game, but shot 21 for 26 from the floor and 19 for 23 from the line, even though Malone was only a 74% free throw shooter. Malone would end up 4th in MVP voting and grabbed a spot on the All-NBA first team this year. As for the Jazz, they would finish 55-27, good enough for only the 4th seed in the Western Conference, and would sadly lose in the first round to the 5th seeded Phoenix Suns. Rounding out our top 3 is going to be the reason why I decided to even make this video and start this channel. Donovan Mitchell, less than a week after Luka Doncic had a top 5 game, decided to one-up him and have a top 3 game instead and push him out of the top 5. January 2nd, 2023, Donovan Mitchell rallied the Cleveland Cavaliers back from down 21 to defeat the Bulls 145-134 in overtime. Donovan Mitchell's stats that game? 71 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 0 steals, and 1 block. Good enough for a 60.8 game score. 2 rebounds away from a 70-point triple-double. Although Spida did not get that record, he did become the first ever person in NBA history to achieve 70 points and 10 assists in an NBA game, as well as taking over the scoring record for the Cleveland Cavaliers previously held by LeBron James with 57 points. Donovan Mitchell shot 22 of 34 from the field, 7 of 15 from 3, and 20 of 25 from the line. Similar to Luka Doncic's comeback, you'll have to see these shots for yourself.
Game-winning shot.
Yeah, enough time to do that with 4 seconds. Here we go. He missed it. Missed it! Donovan Mitchell!
However, even though having this crazy game, there has been some backlash to it, as the last 2 minutes reports came back stating that there was a lane violation by Donovan Mitchell on his free throw attempt and the game should not have gone into overtime. Donovan Mitchell had already put on a masterclass, having 56 points up to this point, but did the rest cause this historic game, and will there be more backlash in the future? I honestly don't think there will be, as there are several missed calls on each side by refs every single quarter, and most people will most likely forget the atrocious reffing this game due to Donovan scoring 71. Donovan's 71 points is the most points in NBA history in the last 17 years, only being surpassed by the one and only Kobe Bryant. Back in 2006, no one believed Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game could be beat. 70 points had only been crossed 6 times and only 2 times since 1963. David Robinson's 71 in 1994 was the most points it seemed someone would ever reach again, until January 22nd, 2006, in a game that put the Lakers against Jalen Rose and the Toronto Raptors. Kobe would fuel a comeback victory at home and take the win 122-104. He would finish this game with 81 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. Good enough for a 63.5 game score. Kobe Bryant shot 28 for 46 from the field and shocked the world with this performance. It didn't just shock the world though, it shocked Kobe himself. Kobe Bryant is stated saying, "Not even in my dreams. That was something that just happened. It's tough to explain. It's just one of those things. It hasn't really set in for me. It's about the W. That's why I turned it on. It turned into something special. To sit here and say I grasped what just happened, that would be lying." Even Michael Jordan's former coach and Kobe Bryant's current head coach, Phil Jackson, was stunned. "That was something to behold," Jackson said. "It was on another level. I've seen some remarkable games, but I have never seen one like that before." Bryant finished the second half scoring 55 of his 81 points, the second highest point total in a half in NBA history, behind Wilt Chamberlain's 59-point second half in his 100-point game. With his team trailing by 18 points in the third quarter, Bryant simply exploded, having 27 points in the third and 28 points in the fourth. He accounted for all but 18 of the Lakers' points in the second half and single-handedly put the game away. Bryant was hitting shots from all over the court, nailing contested jumper after contested jumper, leaving the Raptors without answers. Former Toronto forward Chris Bosh said, "We were just watching him shoot." The Raptors weren't the only ones watching, as Bryant would later note his 81-point game was the first and only professional game his grandmother had ever seen him play live. Even though this might sound like the greatest game ever played, there's still one game ahead of it that we haven't talked about yet. Number 1, March 28, 1990. Just 11 short months after getting eliminated by the Bulls in the playoffs, the Cleveland Cavaliers would face Michael Jordan in one of the most thrilling overtime games ever played. Although a tight game till the very end, the Chicago Bulls would ultimately defeat the Cavaliers 117-113. Although not unexpected, what was unexpected was Michael Jordan's performance. He would play 50 out of the possible 53 minutes, stating, "I didn't think about being tired. I wanted to win the game." And that's exactly what he did, racking up 69 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, and 1 block, for the all-time leading game score of 64.6. And when it even mattered most, Jordan would drop 8 points in overtime to put the game away. He shot an efficient 23 for 37 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and 21 of 23 from the line. MJ would break and still holds the Chicago Bulls record for 69 points in a game, as well as points in a playoff game at 63. Outside of just scoring, he would grab a career-high 18 rebounds this game. Though averaging 33 points a game this season, MJ would finish just third in MVP voting behind Magic Johnson and Charles Barkley, and the Bulls would sadly fall a game short of the NBA Finals, losing to the Detroit Pistons. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know what your favorite performance out of this list was, and I hope to see you next time.